two Arduino sensors. Today we will be taking a look at infrared receiver module. Now you can also get just the little receivers not on one of these sensor boards, but that will be a different tutorial on how to use that. This is already set up to be used with Arduino running at 5 volts. So for this lesson, we are going to need, of course, our little infrared receiver board. In Arduino, I'm using an Uno, an LED, 3 jumper wires to connect the infrared receiver to the Arduino board, and of course we will need some kind of infrared remote control. Any old TV, VCR, CD player remote will work. Try to stay away from Sony's, as they can be a little more complicated, where pretty much everything else besides Sony is going to work perfectly fine with this. If Sony is all you have, there are other tutorials on those because they work completely different than all the other remotes. So all right, first what we'll do is we'll connect this up, and then I will go over. I've set up a simple sketch to get you started with this. So for connecting the sensor, it has 3 pins on the back side. You have one side here where it's got a negative, and the other side has an S. The middle pin is marked with nothing. The middle pin is your VCC, your voltage in. So I'm going to go ahead and connect that one first. I'm going to put this is a brownish red wire. It was the closest I had to red for this. Then the one with the little negative sign by it, that is your ground. So I've got a green to connect to that. And then the one left that has the S next to it, that's the signal pin. And I've got a white jumper here for that. On the Arduino, we will put 5 volt and the ground are right next to each other right here. If you're using a Nano or another board, of course it will be different. On the Nano, the pins are right next to each other. I'm sorry about that, but on other boards they may not be, depending on what you want to use. Then for this lesson, I am just using digital pin 11. For the signal pin, you can use other pins, and you can just have to change that in the Arduino sketch. Then we have a little LED, which is optional. The Arduino board, the Unos, Nanos, Megas, they all got a built-in LED. Now I'm using an Uno, so that's on pin 13. So we want to take our long side and put that into pin 13, and then the short lead will go into ground, like so. And you do not have to worry about a current limiting resistor if you're using pin 13, because that is already built into that pin. Now I'm going to connect up the computer, and I will demonstrate this working, and then we will go over and take a look at the sketch that I have set up. All right, I've just set this up simple. One button will turn it off and on. So I put it, click, turns it on, push it again, turns it off. I am using just one button on the remote. Now there are variations of this where you could use 2 buttons, one to turn it on, one to turn it off. I'll go over that a little bit when we get to the code. But this is just a basic beginner's lesson. Get you connected, get you started, start playing with it, and then after that, on the project's web page, and you find that in the description below, I will have some links to some other projects that I have done using infrared that are a little more complicated. One that comes to mind right away is I did one on controlling a stepper motor, and that's pretty fun. And it used multiple buttons plus repeats, which is something else we'll get into in a moment here. So, all right. I think what we'll do is we'll go over to the computer now. I'll bring up the Arduino sketch, and we'll go through how to get the codes from our remote, and then how to put that into your Arduino sketch to be able to turn your LED off and on. All right, I've got the Arduino IDE opened up here. Now, before we can proceed any further, if you do not already have the IR remote library, you're going to have to get that. So what we'll do here is we'll go under Sketch, Include Libraries, Manage Libraries. It's going to take a moment to come up, and then under here, type in IR MOTE, and right here it is right here. This is the one you want, the IR remote by Sheriff, I guess is how that's pronounced. You don't want any of these other ones. It will not work with this tutorial if you try those. And this is a very good library to use. It has lots and lots of examples. I have went through and stripped down their receive and send and stripped it down to just a bare minimum to make this simple and easy to learn. Once you get the hang of this, then you can go into getting into a little more advanced stuff with the infrared remote control, the IR remote library. All right, so of course we're including that library. Then we're setting our receive pin, that's pin 11. And like I said, if you choose a different pin, just change that number here. You don't want to change this stuff here, leave it alone. Putting in our LED, or defining the LED is on pin 13. Then we have a Boolean. If you're not familiar with that, well, we're calling it state, but a Boolean, it's true or false, 0 or 1. And I have it to start out with false because the LED, when you first put power to the Arduino, it is not gonna, the LED will not be turned on, so that it will be set as it already be false. Next, down here, we're going into, now I have this commented out, and I have this commented out right here. This is what we're gonna use to get our values. So I might as well just stop at this point here and uncomment these. Then you'll want to uncomment this and uncomment this. And then load the sketch up to your Arduino. Once it's loaded, I already have it loaded to save some time. Excuse me. Then open up your serial monitor, grab your remote, point it towards the infrared receiver module, and push whichever button on there that you want to get the code for. So now I was using the enter button to turn it off and on, so I'm going to go ahead and just select that one. I pushed it real quick, and as you can see, that's the number I got. Now I have disabled the hex numbers because that is something that can be a little confusing if you are just getting started in Arduino and programming and stuff. You won't really have to worry about using hex numbers and stuff until you get into where you're going to be sending signals from the Arduino board. All right, another thing, now if I push that enter again, see I keep getting the same number. Well, it glitched out there for a second. I probably didn't have it pointed completely at it. That does happen on a rare occasion. It'll glitch out. You can see right here it did. I do believe it did, or I held it down too long because, nope. Now when you hold down a button on your remote, I just held down the enter. Now it gave me, this is my code for my enter button. Your remote will be different unless you have the same remote. Then I kept holding it down so it's receiving. This is a repeat code. Now I'm going to push a different button. I'm going to push the number 2 and hold that down. As you can see, here's my code for the number 2 off the remote. But then I was holding it down, so I got this number again. This is the repeat. This lets the device know that's receiving the signal that you're holding that button, the last one it received the code for, you are still holding it down. And that's how, like your TV, when you push the volume up and you hold it down, the TV will continue to increase in volume. Otherwise, if you hold the volume down, it'll continue to decrease in volume until you release the button. I hope that makes sense to you. So what you'll do is you'll go through your remote and you'll push all the buttons. This remote I showed you, I have a printout. I went through and mapped every button on it. So when I go ahead and if I'm making a project, I just got this, it's about a sheet and a half printout, and I can look and see what all the codes are instead of having to go do this. If you're going to be doing a lot with the Arduino and the infrared, I would recommend doing that. You can also get smaller remotes that only have a few buttons on it. Some of the infrared receiver boards, modules, you can order them to come with one of those small infrared remote controls. That's a possible way to go as well. And they have fewer buttons. But all right, that's how you map the buttons off your remote. Once you're done with that, you're going to want to go back, and we do not need the serial. You don't have to delete it, just comment it back out. And we don't need to print. Now you can leave it in, but what you'll do is you'll get this delay, and I just put the delay in, so if you're pushing a button on the remote real quick, you're not getting that repeat right away and getting confused. It puts a little delay and gives you time to release the button. All right. So now we've got all of our codes that we need. And whoops, wrong button. Well, I already turned that off, but I can turn it back on. So what we'll do here is I'm going to push the enter button again. That's the code we want right there. That's the one we're going to use. And that's what we're going to be putting in right here. You can see that's actually the code I have. Now, before I forget, up here, this here just starts the receiver, leave it alone. We have our pin mode, leave it alone. Well, unless you're not using LED, you can get rid of that, whatever you're doing. Then we got here, this is the decoding the results. Leave that alone and leave this line of code alone. This makes the receiver look for more codes coming in. What you want to do then is come down to the if statements and the else ifs. And we're just looking here, very, very simple sketch, like I said. This is the code for the enter button. And then if our state, our Boolean, is false, which it should be if you first just powered the Arduino up, it then digitally writes the LED high, sets the state to true, which means the LED is on. Then we have a delay of 10. And that's milliseconds. It just adds a slight bit of stability. You can get away without it, but I have found you get less errors. If you have just that little tiny bit in there, it's up to you. It isn't really going to affect anything. That's a very, very short amount of time. Now next we have our else if statement. If it's getting, and of course we're only using the one button, so if we pushed any other button, it wouldn't do anything. But if we push the enter button again, now our state up here, we set it to true. So it reads, well, the state's true, and that's the value we received from pushing the enter button. It then digitally writes LED low, then sets the state, our Boolean, to false. So now next time it's pushed again, it will turn it back on. That's all there is to this. Like I said, this is just a very beginner's lesson to get you started and get you going, and that's what these Arduino sensor lessons are all going to be about. Now, if you're looking for some more complicated, a little more advanced things to play around with, please check out my channel. Otherwise, you can just do a search on YouTube. There's lots of other people that have done videos on lots of stuff. But like I said on my channel, I'll try to remember on the web page, which is where you can go to get this code. Hopefully I didn't forget to mention that earlier. To get this sketch, just look in the description below. Go to the website. You can copy and paste this right out of there. And I'll have some links to some of my other infrared remote projects. One that comes to mind right away is controlling a stepper motor with a infrared remote control. And that's a fun project if once you get the hang of this, playing with the RF, the infrared receiver, and then you want to start playing with stepper motors. You can also control servos, any other things. But all right, with that, I would like to thank you for joining us here today at the Arduino sensors lessons. I hope you found this information useful. If you did, please give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. And with that, I'd just like to say, I hope you have a great day.